So, what has Excelsior's domain been picking up from eBay? Let's have a look. So I'm going to have to do this at some speed because I've got to get elsewhere to like a certain Cosmic Toy Man's shop before he shuts. However, a few pickups from eBay, and I thought I'd run them into one video just to try and save myself some time. This is a Joy Toy Space Marines figure from Warhammer 40k. Now, the chap who did this, he described it as a sort of a custom build, so he seems to have sort of mixed and matched different elements together. I don't know whether this makes it heretical in terms of Warhammer 40k, but I do know that it makes it cool, because I don't normally get Warhammer 40k figures at all. I think I've seen Gareth doing some unboxings of them, but you know, I know he's got a sort of a bolter and a chainsaw and stuff going on. But I have no idea whether or not, you know, this is an appropriate sort of mix of armour and everything else on a single figure. But I do love the figure size. I think this is a great display size to get decent sort of detail in and everything else. But I'm assuming this came largely as it is. I don't know to what extent this chap actually sort of customised it beyond just swapping parts in and out, you know? But the posability is terrific. It's just really sort of nice posability. So for display purposes, I think it's terrific. You know, and it's right up my street because I don't have to paint the so-and-so. So, you know, I think I've seen, is it McFarlane who do much bigger Warhammer figures than this? And I always thought they were a bit sort of meh because they always look too tall to me. Whereas this guy looks like he's in proportion to what I would kind of expect. But tell me what you think. You know, I literally know very little about Warhammer, so I really don't know if this is something that people would sort of shudder at to see on their shelves. I'm assuming he's a sort of an ultramarine type thing originally, but he's had other elements grafted onto him. So yeah, let me know in the comments. But yeah, I just love all this articulation. Loads of articulation on it. It's great. You know, he's got knees and everything. It's brilliant. And I can even forgive the sort of the chest move that sometimes irks me, because when you're wearing this much armor, it doesn't really matter so much, I don't think. So yeah, it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. I like him quite a lot. So it's just as well that I've got the lighting and everything else sort of in close, because I've got a very small thing to show you now, and it's this. Now then, why on earth have I picked up a small plastic police car from eBay? A very good and fair question, fair viewer. However, this is not just a little car. Now, I've meant to do a little piece of research on this before I started filming, which I haven't done. I wonder if this will actually tell me. No, it just says made in China. Okay. This, in fact, is a penny racer. And it will come as a complete surprise to you that what you're supposed to do is put a penny in the back of them, and then when they whiz along, they're supposed to whiz along with a penny sort of allowing them to do a wheelie. Now, this was actually my first time of trying this out. There you go. Hey, it works. So if you start it off with the penny in the back of it, then it stays doing a wheelie as it runs. I know, it's ridiculous, but I remember these from my childhood really clearly. I don't know whether there was a huge advertising campaign for them or something. But the card backs, which I don't have an example of, but the card backs are actually shaped like a penny, like a quite large penny, and that was one of their sort of unique selling points. So I've got all these bits and bats. I just picked up a tiny little sort of job lot of them because there weren't actually that many available. But I very rarely hear them mentioned or sort of see them on people's videos. So I just wondered if anyone else really sort of remembered these little guys, because I thought they were surprisingly popular. But I guess they're just kind of pocket money toys. But I think the packaging that they were in was really cleverly done, so you spot them really easily on a shelf because they were quite unique. And I just thought it was a novel way to, to try and sell a little sort of pocket money toy. But as I say, let me know in the comments if you do remember them. Now, I've had to come quite a long way back for these two. Poor Mark here is a little bit sort of is cape all over the place. I haven't actually got these out of their boxes yet, but they have been out, so there will be a separate video coming on these guys in due course. But the weird thing is, when I looked at these, I got Jason because I couldn't find Battle of the Planets Jason from Diamond Select for love nor money in the format that I had originally been collecting them in, which was the Diamond Select sort of, small plastic action figure casing, and I've shown you some of those on videos before now. So I've seen him before, and he was quite expensive, but then he came up on an auction, which was just a sort of bidding auction. So I bid for him and I got him much cheaper, so I'm always happy when that happens. And then Mark here came along from the same seller, again, not quite complete, but with a box. And again, I was able to bid for it and get it for a reasonable price. So I actually reunited this pair from the same seller, bizarrely, across two different auctions. And these obviously are huge, but the funny thing about them is, I think they're still Diamond Select. And I was not anticipating that as a concept. So, if I bring it to, they seem to be just these two. It seems to be just Mark and Jason. This seems to be the series. But when I got down to the bottom here, I noticed that there is what seems to be a Diamond Select logo at the bottom. Now, it's not the one. I don't think it's the one I'm familiar with, and they seem to be known more as the Medicom series. I've seen the Medicom name mentioned when people are auctioning them. So, Battle of the Planets, and that's 2002 Sandy Frank Film Syndication. Something there about a comic book tie-in, perhaps. Made in China, copyright 2001, Diamond Select Toys, there we go, and collectibles. So interestingly, when I saw these on eBay, people seem to be mentioning Diamond Select at the same time, and I thought it was just a cunning plan to capture people like me who were looking for the what I assume are the more recent releases than this, which of course are much smaller. But in fact, it sounds like these actually were Diamond Select toys. So I don't know how that's going to be, or there's sort of Diamond Select and Medicom doing these together somehow. So I'm intrigued to read up a bit more about this before I actually do a complete video on them, but I just thought I'd show them to you just sort of in passing as I was doing a bit of a sort of a wrap-up session, a roundup session. So definitely really keen to have a look at these. So they are good. I mean, I imagine they're sort of the 12-inch kind of size figure. Just by looking at them, they remind me a little bit of a Macross figure I picked up recently. Well, a Robotech figure I picked up recently, but I will get them out and have a look at them in another video. But quite cool. Very sort of classic Battle of the Planets, sort of marketing there. And of course, the sort of the G, which I also associate with Battle of the Planets as G-Force, but not part of the sort of official line. Now, other bits and bats. This was quite funny. So Mark will appreciate this one. Let me just move this in a touch because we don't really need to be that far away for this one. I picked up an Indiana Jones Marvel magazine, comic even, rather unintentionally, because actually what I was going for was the Zoids comic strip, and what it's reminded me of that I didn't think I'd really twigged that they would be doing a sort of an Indiana Jones strip in sort of 1985, but this contains the typical sort of Zoids adverty comic that they were doing around this time. If I could actually lay my hands on it, there we go. So there's the sort of the Zoids insert, but it's just done as a sort of standard comic page. It's not actually sort of a pull out or anything. It's just an advertisement, as it helpfully says on the top. So in amongst all the indie action is that, but I one of these days I'm going to do some research into just how many Marvel titles are actually running in the mid-80s, because I was only into sort of Transformers and things because I wasn't perhaps as aware of Marvel as an overall entity at that point. But, lo and behold, his indie in Marvel flavour, and I think Mark's mentioned that he's collecting these at the moment, but I don't think this is one that he needs. But, it's just sort of advertising some of the indie merchandise and indeed Spider-Man merchandise of the era. So I guess these are often quite useful reference points, as I found when I was looking through the actual Zoids comics. It's a big comic as well. So there's quite a lot of stuff in there. So really quite interesting. Now, along similar lines, again, I picked this up, not realising that the advert for it quite clearly said I was going to get a comic. And this is a Return of the Jedi comic from, it's number 55, 4th of July 1984. And the reason that I got it wasn't because I was going to get a Star Wars Return of the Jedi comic featuring Han Solo, but because it had a Terrahawks catalogue ad in it, so that I would have some solid idea of exactly how many Terrahawks pieces of merchandise came out. And I was literally getting it for that, but I was genuinely puzzled when the package turned up and it was kind of quite a thick A4 package, and I was thinking, what did I buy? But then when I looked back at the eBay auction, it did very clearly say that it was going to come with this attached to a magazine, basically. So not only did I get Star Wars in this, I also got Krull. So there's a Krull comic strip in this comic, which is hilarious because I like Krull. So we've got BMX t-shirts and stuff there being advertised on the back, more of the watches. We've got Krull here. So we've got the glaive and everything in this comic. So it seems to be an adaptation of the film in comic book formats. Now, it just never occurred to me, even vaguely occurred to me, to look for that as a concept. But I do remember Star Wars strips like this. I remember having a Star Wars Summer Special, I think it was, that it was really interesting because it was probably my first experience of the Star Wars expanded universe. And I do remember that being a Marvel issue as well. But it's just really sort of fascinating that there was a Krull comic as well. Never would have occurred to me to look for a Krull comic because, rather famously, Krull is horribly short of merchandise, as in there is none. For some reason, they didn't quite get it off the ground in time, and then that was it. End of. So yeah, just really completely, utterly random coincidence that in trying to get a Terrahawks catalogue, I ended up with a Krull comic, which is definitely one of my more random things. Almost as random as getting this. This came from Japan, apparently. Now, can some good fellow in the comments, please explain to me why we get free postage so often on things from Japan? Because we seem to, and I don't know why. And I think that was the case with this one. Just bear with me a moment. Now, this I anticipate being a tiny little thing, and it almost certainly is. So this was just another attempt on my part to get a little Jason from Battle of the Planets, as I couldn't find a bigger one. So it's like a little sort of Japanese kind of sweet inner, I think. You know how you get those little balls out of machines? It's that sort of thing. It's not a sweet thing, I don't really mean that, but it's like something like it from a candy machine, you know? So I might be able to just get him out quickly. I'm really got to get moving, unfortunately. But I just thought I would try and be efficient with my time today, and it's kind of backfiring on me, to be honest. Let's just see if I can fish him out. Very well wrapped, I'll give him that. Ugh. Come on. There we go. It's cool. I like the look of it already. I haven't even got it out yet. I assume somebody's repackaged this from something else. I'm kind of afraid of tearing this cape here, but I think I'm alright. Okay. There we are. So he's got a little stand, which I appreciated as well from the images, and he's got his helmet there as well. That's cool. Seems to have survived the trip all right. So he's got a sort of a very sort of flattened hairstyle. That just pops on there. I mean, that's pretty cool. I mean, it's very, very simple and very, but it's not ridiculously cheap looking, you know. But it wasn't terribly expensive to get at all, because as I say, the postage wasn't particularly anything just, you know, just to write home about. So that's pretty cool. I'll have to remind myself of where I think his foot just sort of fits in there, and then he should just stand up. So actually, that's, you know, given that he comes with his own stand, that's pretty cool. I'm quite happy with that. I'm gonna have to have a little look at the leaflet as well. That looks quite interesting. Very cool. Now then, last but not least, because it just makes me chuckle, and I'd seen it come up once or twice before, and I hadn't sort of really connected with it, but on this occasion I did. Because you see, it's cold outside, there's no kind of atmosphere. I'm all alone, more or less. Goldfish shoals nibbling at my toes. Fun, fun, fun. In the sun, sun, sun. Bum, 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 bum. Bum, 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 bum. Yes, Red Dwarf by Corgi. It's like, I remember the first time I saw this, I just thought, why is this a thing? Why is this a thing? Why do we have Rimmer and Lister in Corgi style as little sort of pewter dolls in the middle of this packaging? I've got no idea. But I nearly got the Red Dwarf by itself, but it was a slightly busted one. But then I realised that you could get both Red Dwarf and Starbug and Lister and Rimmer as part of a single package. And I thought, well, okay, it would be rude not to. I wonder if the website still works. But I just thought, had I realised that was available at the time, I definitely would have had that. There's no two ways about it. I mean, this was probably sort of released at the kind of the height of Red Dwarf's fame. And Red Dwarf does continue, of course, to this day. Although I haven't watched it for a number of years. But it is just very, very cool. And it was actually displayed quite nicely just as that. Because it's actually quite a big box. As you can see, it actually stands quite tall, just sort of in and of itself. So as a display piece, it's actually pretty cool. And it just tickled me. And I got offered a discount on it and stuff as well. So I thought, yeah, it would be rude not to. But it's the sort of thing that maybe didn't get a huge release. So I dare say it's, you know, it's kind of inherently scarce because there won't have been that many of them to start with. But also, you know, people like myself who do remember the series very fondly from growing up would probably be very interested in this. And I'm kind of tempted to leave it in the box, if I'm honest. I don't know. It's definitely one of those ones where I'm thinking, you know, if I could find a cheaper one or a more battered box, you know, that was cheaper, then I would put them out, because it just tickles me that there's a Corgi version, like a Corgi Junior style version of Red Dwarf, which is, it's just like years after Buck Rogers and everything else, they release a Red Dwarf from Corgi. Just brilliant. Yeah, so on that bombshell, I think I bounced through, actually, do you know what? I haven't bounced through everything. Let me show you one more thing, which is entirely appropriate, because this is a Corgi from a very different age. And this is a little Moonraker shuttle Corgi, but it has some rather battered packaging, which I thought was rather lovely. So I just thought I'd literally just grabbed this because it's got some packaging. And I remember this quite clear. I remember having a double pack, which I think was this and the Liberator. I think that was a thing. And as you can see, you know, it's got sort of James Bond, Corgi 41, Moonraker, image from the film there, but also a little bit of the Corgi range of the day as well on the back. And the card is pretty battered, but as a result, I didn't have to pay a lot for it. But I just enjoyed the fact that, you know, the packaging is there. It's not even a great example of the little Moonraker shuttle. I've actually got a better one in different Corgi packaging, but I just thought I'd throw that in there as it was an eBay pickup. So I'm going to leave you there because I've got a dash and I've got to get across to Gareth to go and pick up some other stuff. So I will say cheers for now. Do like and subscribe. I thank you.